Hey there, Terry here, and welcome to another episode of the Animation Industry Podcast. In November 2012, an Australian animator by the name of Micheal Cusak uploaded a video on YouTube called YOLO that got millions of views overnight. If you haven't seen it yet, you need to go watch it now. It is insane. I've included a link in the description of this podcast, but basically it's about two girls looking to get fucking wasted. Now, 8 years later, that YouTube video is getting its own show called YOLO Crystal Fantasy, which is premiering on Adult Swim on August 9th. And I really couldn't believe it when I found out because YOLO is one of my favorite animations on YouTube. Plus, I got to see the first 3 episodes before they aired, and it is a ride. Now, in this episode, I'm chatting with one of the main voice actors. His name is Todd Manojlovic, and he does the voice of Rachel, as well as a whole bunch of secondary and background characters on the show. And besides voice acting, Todd is also a musician based out of Melbourne, Australia. And in this chat, he shares how he ended up landing the role, some amazing behind the scenes of what it took to get the characters right, and his best advice for others looking to get into voice acting for animation. But first, I just found out from my friends over at SIGGRAPH that their submission deadline for the Asia 2020 Computer Animation Festival has been extended to August 15th, and I wanted to help get the word out about that. Their submissions are open to all CG animated shorts, commercials, visual effects sequences, game cinematics, or if you're like me, stop motion animations that have effects done on the computer. So if you're doing any last minute touches to your shorts or just finding out about the festival now, make sure you check it out and get your submissions in by the 15th. And I've included a link in the description of this podcast for you, so please check that out. Now, without further ado, let's jump right into the chat. All right. Hi, Todd. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast. Chat, how are you doing today?
I'm good. In chilly Melbourne winter.
Yeah, I didn't know Melbourne was ever cold, but here we are. So, so you're we're talking because of the launch of Crystal Fantasy, which is a ridiculous show that I just found out about based on the YOLO short from YouTube, which I've showed pretty much everybody I know. But I want to talk about that. But I want to talk about first, how did you get into voice acting in the first place?
Well, actually, it was just when Cusak when Michael, my friend Micheal Cusak, of course, the creator of the show, just started his own sort of animation on Flash on the computer, because he was he was drawing a lot already, and then he sort of started animating himself, and he just asked me to be involved on the first video that he wanted to.
So you're friends with the creator. Wait, so what were you doing at the time when he asked you to voice for? Is it Rachel?
Yeah. The original video. It's funny actually. What I was doing was, aside from going to uni, I was actually filming with Michael as well. He was making his first feature film at the time.
Wow.
So I was a character in that movie as well. And then after one of the shoots, I think actually I went over to his house, or his mate's house, to do some ADR. And he said, "Oh, while you're here, I've got something else that I'm working on. Do you want to try doing some voices for this as well?" Yeah, no worries, of course. And he gave me this strange character, and I went for it, and he put it on YouTube, and it went viral. So there you go.
Well, you also do an absolutely ridiculous, perfect job for it. So you weren't actually looking for a career in voice acting. You kind of just stumbled into it.
Not particularly. I mean, I was always really interested in voice acting and radio and acting in general and things like that. I'm actually a lot more comfortable doing voice, instead of actually being on a screen. But yeah, I wasn't pursuing it in particular. I guess I was more pursuing the music thing at the time. I was in uni for music, and I was in a band, and I was playing around a lot, and trying to figure out if I was going to make that sort of my ambition. But then that was back when I used to live in Wollongong. I moved to Melbourne shortly after that to try and pursue music. But yeah, sort of fall into voice acting naturally.
So has your voice acting career exploded since the YOLO video, other than Crystal Fantasy?
No, not yet. I mean, I'm hoping this is the doorway, because when it was surprising when, because that just went dormant for a while. Cusak did his own thing. YouTube sort of ate up those videos, and they all seemed to love it. And then, it was several years later where Cusak said, "Hey, look, I just got this opportunity from Adult Swim. Do you want to revive those characters?" And I went, "Yeah, I was born for it, man. I'm ready."
So let's talk about Crystal Fantasy a little bit. Can you describe the show for me in a nutshell for those who are uninitiated?
Hmm. Sure. Okay. Well, it's it's funny. I go through my head going, how do I explain the show? Well, I'll give you the basics. It's a story of two party girls, I suppose, who are best friends. Who I guess it's just their life's work to go and find the best party that they can all the time. But it's also the story of just being a 20-something-year-old person, just out there to have some fun. But the world keeps throwing curveballs at them because it's not a regular world, of course.
You're describing this like so calmly. In reality, the show is like a constant like barrage of crazy stuff thrown in your face all the time.
And that's the thing. It sounds so normal, doesn't it? It sounds normal to talk about, but yeah, it's just the world that they get thrust into, I suppose, that really has its effects on them, right?
So do you only do you voice act for more than one character on the show?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was actually me and Cusak in a church in a room for a good, couple of months. Just pretty much between me and him doing all the little characters in the background. He's got most of them in his head. But yeah, I do a couple more in the show. But it's just literally as we're reading the script, we go, "Who wants to play this character? All right, you do this one. I'll do this one."
Oh, that's hilarious. That's so like down to earth. I love it. It's like it's so not super formal. So how do you like I've had to read lines before, like, and I have a tough time sounding natural or excited, not boring, like not tripping over my lines, forgetting stuff. Like how do you do it? Like what is your process to put out something that sounds super natural, in character, all that stuff?
Well, I think, funnily enough, I think I was lucky to sort of start the process of reading scripts and memorizing lines when I was about maybe 8 or 9 years old. I played a character in a school play called Wee Willie Winky, and I had to start off reading and memorizing lines there, and I did okay with that, and I kind of felt kind of comfy with it in a weird way. And I guess it started from there, but and it also maybe comes from having learnt an instrument as a kid, where I had to remember a lot of music and stuff like that. But mostly it's just working with Cusak, who's my best friend. It's so easy to be really comfortable around him that you just read the lines a couple of times, and then you just sort of do what feels natural to you. Sometimes it comes out slightly different to the script. It's not so bad because it's more natural. It just feels better that way.
So can you ad-lib something right now?
Yeah. You can ad-lib all over the place. Cusak's usually got an idea of what key words he wants in there. So if I miss them, I might have to do it again and get the key words in there. But as long as the idea is there, that's more what we're looking for.
So give me some lines right now.
Let's see. I'm just trying to think. What line should I? Can you stop talking right now? Look at this selfie I got with Madison.
Can you say the word dance? Because and like drunk, because those are just hilarious to me, because it sounds so funny.
Let's dance, let's get drunk.
So how much, so you mentioned you were ad-libbing. How much involvement do you have in writing or changing the script, because you're best friends with the creator?
Yeah, a bit. We actually fully collaborated on episode 3, which is a story about the girls who go to a strange beach and get caught up with all the beach creatures. That story is pretty much from about 10 years ago, when me and Cusak started our own band together. And we had stories for the characters in the band and stuff like that. But yeah, we do collaborate sometimes, and just bring new jokes to the floor and everything like that. Yeah, I guess it just happens as the show goes along. Sometimes Cusak will be reading a line, and then we'll go, no, it needs to be funnier or something like that. Let's just figure out something. What's funny at this point in time. Yeah, let's try this one instead. And
that seems awesome. Like you get to be not only voice acting on a show, but like kind of reliving this friendship you have with your best friend through it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's really nice, actually, because because Cusak was off for a while. You know, he went to the US. He was in Wollongong. I didn't see him for a few years because he moved to Melbourne. We lived together for about 6 weeks, and then he went off and lived with his partner, and then he went to Wollongong, and then he went to the US, and yeah, eventually he ended up back in Melbourne. We finally got to hang out again for the first time in a couple of years, and it just so happened to be on this fantastic show. So it's so exciting. Yeah.
Are there any inside jokes that you've kind of put in the show that people will watch and not really understand?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, there are so many. In fact, it's almost like we made the whole show kind of for ourselves. So I'm hoping it's going to translate.
That's fair. I mean, I've seen the first 3 episodes and I thought it was ridiculous and enjoyed it.
Yeah, good. That's great. It must be translating somehow. Then.
I don't know how much you can reveal at this point, but is there like an inside joke that you think we should look out for?
Well, I guess in particular, for example, in episode 3, where they end up down in Crocodile Town to meet the crocodile. That's really that's a joke. That was a YouTube video I think me and Cusak made back in 2010. It kind of stemmed from there. Those characters, the frog guardian and all that with his wares and everything right before you go into the crocodile's mouth. All this stuff is going to make no sense until the audience, sees what I'm talking about. But yeah, all of those characters there, the crocodile, the seashell, the frog guardian, they're all little inside jokes, little inside characters that's just, that we just made up and we just went with it.
So you gave me some behind the scenes of how you kind of were just going back and forth, being like, you pick this character, you pick that character. There in each episode, maybe there's only like 5 or 6 minutes of actual lines that you might say. What do you like? How long does it take you to produce like one episode or a whole season? Is it like a full-time job for a couple months, or is it
I was actually working, I still work 2 jobs, I suppose. I was working my regular day job during the day, and then I'd go to the studio in the night and we'd work until about 2 a.m. Something like that. Yeah. So, well, sometimes it would be all night and things like that. So it was, it would have taken, I was recording lines up to about last week, and we started last August.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, it takes about 3, maybe a week to get together the dialogue for the episode. But there's so many little bits that come along in the future, just tiny little things like, we forgot to do a grunt here, we forgot to do a yell here or whatever. So that comes back in the future. But yeah, really the process took almost exactly a year.
And you're working, is this every single weeknight that you're working, or is this like
it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday mostly.
Because I was going to ask, how do you keep up that energy when you're working till at least 2 a.m. and then you have a day job?
Well, it was really just hanging out with my friend, to be honest. We managed to make the studio look pretty outrageous. We bought a piano and a drum kit and a bunch of keyboards, and I brought over all of my weird and wacky instruments. And if we were ever getting a little bit, I don't know, can we keep going? Let's go play some crappy music, So then we just play some music.
So now that you've been through this whole experience, would you do it again?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. In fact, we're looking to start again quick, smart. We're going to try and get right back into it. Season 2, why not?
So thinking about your future, you have this background in music, and your what is your day job, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I actually work at Melbourne Music Centre. So
okay, perfect. So so you're very music and vocally oriented. What is kind of the dream that you are pursuing, or would you like to end up at?
Well, I mean, I had a different answer for you, I guess, a year ago or 2 years ago, where I would have said, I'd love to pursue music, and I'd love to, once I came down here to Melbourne, it took me a while to sort of get going on the scene, and I started a couple of years ago. But then when Cusak moved down and gave me this opportunity, it's like it really did just fall in my lap. So I went, this is such a great opportunity. I've got to pursue this. So I'd really like to continue on the voice acting path and the writing path and things like that, just go where my mates go.
So now that you have a break, are you going to be actively pursuing other voice acting roles and using Crystal Fantasy as your resume?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I'm happy to keep going. I'm happy to, put my voice out where it's needed. And yeah, look for some more work. Yeah.
So you have like kind of a taste of the voice acting industry now. Do you have any like kind of weird or quirky, not we, I don't know why I said weird, any insights into how people get voice acting roles? Is it like kind of a call to audition, just like a actor, or, you
It
know?
seems it. Yeah, I mean, the other voice actor that we got, I was just so lucky, you know, I was really lucky considering that I didn't have too much experience in the field. But while I was there, seeing how other people got their work, it really was just sort of, you know, they've been operating in the industry for a while. Why don't you try this person? Cusak could always be like, oh, I know that person. You know, being in Australia, there's, you know, really we all flip between Melbourne and Sydney, basically, which is about 1,000-kilometer distance. But we're all just going between Melbourne, Sydney, sometimes over the other side of the country and stuff. But we all kind of operate in the same circles if you're in the industry and in entertainment. So you pick from the pool, you know. It's great, but yeah.
So you went from, you know, doing the voices on like a minute. I don't even know how long the original YOLO is. It's like maybe a minute, maybe 2 minutes.
Yeah,
And then there was like a almost 10-year break. And now you just finished a whole year of voice acting. So like, what is the biggest thing that you learned to get to kind of like hone your skills as a voice actor through this whole process?
Well, I guess, to be honest, the biggest thing I learned was to keep going with it, to not lose sight of any creative ambition. Like if you're starting off, you know, interested in music, interested in movies, voice acting, whatever, when you're younger, in your teen years, and school, I went to a performing arts high school, which was good, but sometimes school likes to sort of, and uni kind of likes to beat it out of you a little bit, depending on where you are in school and uni. You know, I was an okay student, I suppose, but I wanted to pursue that creative side of things. So I think that the one thing I've really learned here is just keep going with it. Whatever creative endeavor you have, just keep going, keep going, keep going. One day it'll pay off. One day it'll pay off. You know.
So when you say keep going, what does that mean? Does it specifically like keep practicing?
Well, anything. Yeah, keep practicing, keep making things, just creating. You know, create anything you can. If you've got some editing stuff on your computer, if you're just sitting down and painting a picture or drawing or singing or playing music, you know, just anything creative. You know, if it's a hobby that you're really serious about and you really want to turn it into your livelihood, then just keep at it, you know.
Yeah, I really like that advice, because it, like, you want to keep the ball rolling. You don't want it to stop and just kind of sit there, because
exactly, and
sit there and nothing will happen.
That's right. And life likes to throw you curveballs, and you know, and when you're looking for that bread, you're trying to get a job here and there, and you gotta forego some of your creative time for other jobs, but you know, you just got to remember what your roots are.
I meant to ask you when we were talking about kind of, you know, your voice acting on Crystal Fantasy, there's like a strange dynamic between the two characters where like Rachel is just looking for a party and Sarah is like more emotional and like the friend that gets kind of shit on a lot. When you're like in character, is that going through your mind as well? Or are you just trying to deliver a funny line? Like, are all these thoughts going through your mind whenever you're saying a line?
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, I'm always laughing after I read a line because of how much Sarah is getting shit on, you know. Because, you know, poor Sarah's just there going, oh, you know, I don't know if we should do this, and Rachel's just being the worst person in the world, you know. She's just horrible to her best friend. But yeah, I mean, I do think about that, but it's really only after the fact. It's I'll read the line, try and deliver it in a funny way, and then just crack myself up, you know, and then just like walk around the room laughing for a while, going, God, this is so ridiculous, you know, it's so funny.
So what's one of the most ridiculous things you had to say?
I'm just trying to think. Like, I think one of them was when there's an episode where we're driving down a freeway, and Rachel asks, when are we getting to the club? And Sarah's like, oh no, we're just going for a relaxing drive today, Sarah. Rachel, you know, just relax. And I don't hear her at all. I just say, you know, when are we getting to the club again? And then over the radio, you hear that there's a bush tooth, like a party out in the outback. So suddenly I turn and I say, what's that? And Sarah's like, what? And I just crashed the car, like I just take the wheel and drive it off a cliff, basically, just to get to this party.
That is quite ridiculous. I don't know. As soon as I heard that there was coming a whole series, I was like super excited, because that short on YouTube was like so perfect for when it came out. It just like summed up like young party culture. Like I was in university at the time, and it was just perfect.
Oh, it was out of this world when it came out, and it's so funny to hear that it translated to anybody in any other countries, because it's so Australian, it really was just the life that we were around at the time. Of course, it was a bit exaggerated. You want to hope it was, but it was really just what we were experiencing, hyperbolized a little bit. So it's so good that it translated to everybody else.
I have one more. I know we only have a short chat, but so there's a lot of swearing in the show, but it's all like bleeped out. Are you actually like, I'm assuming you're just full on swearing, but we don't hear it?
Oh, okay. Yeah, we are swearing and swearing and swearing. And sometimes I read a line, I go, far out, that's not going to get anywhere near the censors, But I mean, maybe there'll be an uncensored version out there somewhere.
Okay, I wasn't sure, because it almost seems like the bleeps are kind of planned versus like somebody after the fact is going, oh my God, here's another like F-bomb.
Here they go again.
Somebody's job to bleep it all in.
Yeah, no, because I mean, I guess part of the Australian experience is gratuitous swearing. We're all, just going at it like crap. It's almost a term of endearment sometimes if you're swearing at people. So
maybe as we just kind of wrap it up, say there's somebody listening and they, they're a budding voice actor that wants to act for animation. What is maybe the number one thing they can focus on to try to land a gig or get themselves out there or improve their skill? That was 3 things.
That's all right. Well, just keep at it for starters. Keep going with it. Just try different things as many times as you can. If you're trying one line, just try it 100 times over. And if you've got somebody to bounce off, do that too. We would spend hours just going over individual lines, just talking at each other, trying to make it more natural, just trying to make it as natural as possible. Forget about the microphone, forget about everything. As natural as you can. You still got to speak right into it. So trying to tell yourself it doesn't exist when it's right in front of you is a hard thing to do.
Well, that's what happens to me. Like when I have to say a line in front of a mic or a camera, my mind just goes into like this totally different mode and I become a robot.
Yeah. That's the hardest part to get over, to be honest. And really that's what the process was. It was me reading the line, it being maybe a bit too rigid, and then just getting into the character in each line and how it feels and how it operates.
Gotcha. Well, thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
Oh, I think that's the lot. We're covered it all.
Yeah, excellent. Cool. Well, if you're listening, make sure you check out Crystal Fantasy on Adult Swim, premiering August 9th. And also make sure you check out Todd's work. You can find him on Instagram. Check out his music on Robot Chicken, and I'll include hitting 200 episodes. That's awesome. So thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. Okay, bye.